let's find out what's happening in politics this week. Political analyst Lukhona Mnguni joins me now for that conversation. Lukhona, great to have you as always, colleague. So it's now less than 20 days. I mean, it's a whole countdown to the ANC's elective conference. And we know now who will be contesting what positions. But in your opinion, are those the creme de la creme, the people that will actually take South Africa forward, in your opinion?
Well, good morning to you and good morning to our viewers at ENCA. You know, I had this conversation yesterday afternoon with Dr. Kulumbata, Prof. Siepe and Sanet Madanzela, and there's quite some consensus that this is not the creme de la creme. In actual fact, it seems as if you are scandal reading, you have a higher opportunity to make it within the ranks and files of the top 6 within the ANC. There doesn't seem to be a concerted search for the best among the rest of, the members of the ANC. And I think this is partly because there isn't a tradition in the ANC to break out of the current existing leadership. So they keep recycling amongst themselves. And because many of them have served in government in one capacity or the other, they've been tainted by the sins of incumbency. And because they don't want to let go of power and look for new talent, look for fresher energy, look for people who are quite dynamic and embody the values of the ANC, it seems as if that is measured in terms of how many years have you held membership for the ANC. Of course, partly where were you during the struggle and all those other things. So unfortunately, the template that is being used to elect leadership in the ANC doesn't make it possible for them to elect the best among themselves.
Yeah, but also, I mean, the ANC Free State Regional Conference and some of the issues at the Mangaung Conference being quite evident there, this leading up to elective conference. What do you make of those?
Well, what happened in Mangaung appears to me a recipe for disaster and for litigation. And you know this, because you've seen litigation just at the eve of conference. I do anticipate that that conference, there might be some litigation. Hopefully, those who are deemed to have won, have a foolproof story to tell in terms of, the processes and how you ended up with 2 parallel conferences to begin with in that region. Whenever that happens, it does not bode well for the organization, because it means that one of the elements that the ANC is focusing on, which is unity, has not been achieved. And therefore, even if, procedurally and legally, perhaps this conference that, is touted as the one that was legitimate passes, but the question of unity and cohesion in the province will still carry on. And you will know that Free State is one of the 2 provinces that did not manage to hold a provincial conference in the build-up to this conference, along with the Western Cape. So it already tells you that actually in the Free State is in quite a precarious political position.
And this is the province we're talking about, but also when we look at it more nationally, former President Jacob Zuma making that statement about how the ANC has lost its dignity, making reference to the less than 50% threshold they now hold. On the other hand, Bantu Holomisa weighing in on the Tripartite alliance, having reached the end of its journey.
Well, and that is evident in how the Tripartite Alliance is behaving, right? COSATU at its last conference, you remember, took that very interesting vote, which, was overwhelmingly supported, that, the trade union might not need to support the ANC come the 2024 elections. And that was quite a demonstration that generally the shop stewards and the general members of COSATU had long departed from the ANC. And I remember when that vote was taken, it took me back to like 2013, 2012, a study that was done by a research outfit led by Prince Mashele at the time, which, they couldn't release the study. There was a lot of controversy in terms of leadership around that issue. But the point was that it was demonstrating that shop stewards actually were beginning to call for leaders to stop supporting the ANC. We've also seen the South African Communist Party coming out and saying they will consider, contesting against the ANC in 2024. Now, that tells you that these calls for the reconfiguration of the Tripartite Alliance have landed on deaf ears, because the ANC does not want to append, to remove itself as the original, political center of this Tripartite Alliance. And this is making a lot of its partners aggrieved. But of course, you know that there is also the possibility of coalition governments. So we don't know if it's a ruse just to make sure that, there are many vehicles as possible to get votes for the ANC ecosystem, where the SACP, COSATU, and the ANC would then, after after the elections come together and form a coalition government. But the truth is that all is not well in the Tripartite Alliance, and there's no voice of reason. There's no one who prevails over the other when one strays. And therefore, yeah, I do think that, I mean, for some time anyway, the Tripartite Alliance has become irrelevant.
Yeah, also, the begs the question, what's going to happen then come 2024? Will they be in support of the ANC? We'll have to wait and see. I have to let you go in a moment, colleague. Before I do, though, take me to 2024 elections. Think Tank Rivonia Circle hosting that debate on new political parties for the 2024 elections.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, the work of the Rivonia Circle has been quite clear in terms of, being a knowledge hub and searching for political alternatives, but not just political alternatives in terms of political parties, but political cultures, the way in which we do our politics, the way in which we center people in our politics, and how do we, mobilize for what many people call people's power. And that's why the Rivonia Circle has also been involved a lot in the electoral amendment bill to ensure that, parliamentarians, public representatives are as close to communities as possible. But yes, on Saturday, the event that took place, mobilizing people's power to rise, was important in that people came out with a pledge that says they want to explore a political alternative towards 2024, but it must be in the form of a political movement, and that this must be inclusive across the board. And the quote that you are quoting from Bantu Olomisa himself, he was sending a message there. And people like Reverend Frank Chikane spoke about the need for South Africans to organize themselves and deliver a people's manifesto ahead of the 2024 elections. So I think, Tumelo, there's a lot of work that is happening in the country in terms of different, political formations, political persuasions coming to a strategic center to find themselves and say, how do we prepare for 2024 so that, the post-2024 outcome is not chaotic, but also that you've got a new set of, public representative thinkers and people who are going to try and help you see through this transition period, which will most likely be one of a coalition government post-2024.